Hi, I'm Maurice Whylie. I work for Lely Center Eglish, customer care advisor on FMS. We're here at the farm of Paul McAleece, Ultimo Farms. Paul and Bertie McAleece, I suppose, Ultimo Farms at Coke in County Tyrone. I'm very grateful for Paul and Bertie to allow us to come here today to do this virtual farm visit. I suppose from day one, the first introduction I got here was, I arrived, we were putting footbaths in and there was a lot going on just prior to start up, and it was a great farm to come to because Bertie likes a bit of crack and I like a bit of crack, and it all went off well, started well. And I suppose from an FMS perspective, Paul, we've just worked with you and helped you with understanding T4C between Neil and Jacob and myself. And also suppose we had maybe issues with mastitis that we looked at the start, teat end damage at the start.
Just getting the right liner sizes.
We scored teats. We measured teats and changed liner size
at the start,
which seemed to alleviate the issue.
Yeah, definitely.
And
what was the issue at the start, or what?
I think at the start it was more down to with learning the robots and stuff at the start. Learning we were maybe over too many milkings per cow per day at the start also, and then with the liners in not being the correct size for the size of teats that we have and the cows, just I think all that was sort of working together with a wee bit of teat end damage then at the end of the teats, and basically you came out, measured majority, a good few cows on average over the whole herd, and from that we decided
we went to 19.
What was it beforehand?
We're in a 21. We're in a
what called of a difference,
well, there's only 2 mil, but just there's a difference in the barrel length as well. So it seemed to work out well, and teat end damage I think's to a minimum. You know, from doing that.
You mentioned maybe milking too often.
Our milk access was set wrong. Well, not set wrong, just wasn't changed at the start, and then from that, like we were milking cows 3.4 of an average, 3.4 milkings over the whole herd. That's big. There's some cows getting milked 5 times a day, you know, because they were given enough milk for it. And between new liners and changing the milk access, so that the cows were able to go not just as often, that seemed to help the problem.
Can you explain the milk access a bit there, Morris? What is that? And
so basically milk access kicks in, if you like, most of it's set up to like 30 days at the start. So a cow can get milked a maximum of 5 and a minimum of 4 times. But you can change that if you wish, but that's what we're looking, because realistically it's like a training period for cows or heifers coming in. So it means if they're coming within their time, they're getting milked and they're not getting refused. So it gives them more confidence to use the machine. And then whenever they go into the main part of their lactation after 30 days, that's whenever they have to have a certain yield on them before they're allowed to be milked. If you haven't got that high enough, according to your herd, it's built towards your herd average. So if you haven't that high enough, then it means that cows can get milked too often. So it's something we hone on about, maybe not enough, but it's something that's vital, because it affects your free time. It can affect teat damage because if cows are milked too often, but it also means that the cows that need milk get milked at the right time.
So
and that's what we're pushing towards.
Start off at here, and then what is it now?
It probably standard is 7. There's 3 boxes, so prior 30 to 14 before dry off, and then 14 to dry off. So it's probably was set at 7, 8 and 9 as standard, and I'm not sure actually what it's at the minute.
What the leader?
Them 3 centre by.
Well, I think now with the milk being up as high as it is, I think we've it up near the 13 litre mark for the main.
For the main bit. So we're asking the cows to carry 13 kilos, which you think it's a lot, but on a twice a day milking average, cows could be carrying 18 litres.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not. It's just you're forcing that the cow that needs the milk can get milk. The cow that can carry a bit staler can carry a bit longer, and that's where we gain our free time.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about, and we're
and
in
to
the
utilise the robots.
Yeah,
too,
well that's
you
it.
know,
You're max out of the box.
Trying to take as much out of them as you can.
Yeah. We're actually working at the minute to turn on cow visit optimizer, which will challenge the cows again on how much they're carrying. So probably within the next week or two, we'll be turning that on. So that means that basically a cow that's due to milk now and she's expected to give 13 kilos.
Yeah.
The optimizer will say, right, we'll keep you another 10 minutes and see if you'll give us 14 kilos. So it's working on, it's challenging every cow rather than within the parameter of what we have set.
Yeah.
So from that perspective,
get more litres out of your robot, basically.
Yeah, that's what it's
We have
about.
a lot of heifers coming through there at the minute, so and just need to fit them in. So there's Maurice's idea to try and get them fitted in.
Well, we'll try our best.
Yeah.
I will try our best to do it. And I suppose on the other aspect of that, we're very happy that Horizon, I'm sure everybody will be becoming aware of. Horizon is going to be the new software that runs the Lely robotic system, and Paul has agreed to be one of the first movers, and I think he's fairly excited about that because there's going to be a lot of extra information that's not in T4C to do with past lactations, so it can help with breeding, what cows had as mastitis last year. So I think he's fairly excited. With 2 farms, I think it's going to be June before it's turned on. But with 2 farms with Paul here and Jeff McMahon, so we're really excited about that happening down the line because we see it as a big plus forward. It's based in the cloud, and therefore we think access of information is going to be a lot quicker and easier for everybody via phone, tablet or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, we'll maybe just take a wee tour around the facility here and just take a look at what the layout is. I mean, what have we got here?
Over in there used to be where the milking parlour was. Then we changed it into cubicles for the dry cows. We also set up at that time a cosmetics feeder for the dry cows so that we could feed exactly the cows when they needed fed in the dry cow period. And also if you have a cow slightly poor, you can up the meal for them at that to get the condition on them.
Do you have heifers in here as well?
Yeah, basically they have their collars on and they get the same blend all out at the end, just silage and straw, and then as they need their meal accordingly, they get it in the cosmetics.
How many kilos of meal is going through for the dry
They get
cows,
nothing
roughly?
for 4 weeks. The first 8 weeks off calving, they get nothing the first 4 weeks, and then the last 4 weeks they get. People think you're mad, but they get as much as 4 kilos of meal the last 4 weeks. Believe it or not, at the start we didn't have that going for the robots, but the cosmetics has helped the heifers, I would say, to get used to the robot. They just aren't as scared at the start.
So you've got your dry cows, heifers, close-ups, I take it? Or everything's in there?
All dry cows in there, springers, everything.
And then
go into
you have your calving
pens.
pens.
There's 5 calving pens. There's bull on the top of one of them at the minute right enough, but there's 5 calving pens there, and just they're took out there as they're ready to calve. And then from that calve, open them gates straight into robot 6. And robot 6 is where basically milk the first time, colostrum's ticking, and then it's they're automatically drafted the first day into the bedded pen and behind robots 5 and 6.
Okay, well, maybe just take a wee look at that, if that's okay.
One thing I also did find with the robots calving all year round. We used to calve in a block. You always have colostrum nearly sitting ready. If you have a cow calve, you always have colostrum there that we put in the fridge, and the next calve that's born, then we're able to just have colostrum straight away, and it's straight until
Aye, so they're separating out in here to these dump buckets, and then
the last one goes into the dump buckets, and it's ready for the calves straight away. Cow's milk, and then it's basically you've a draft there where it goes out into the bedding. And this is where there's a bit of a bedded area. This is where I call death row. No, where all the casualties go and stuff in here, the fresh calf cows go in here.
So you have fresh calf cows, separated cows,
Yeah.
you have a separate feeding space for them.
Yeah. And then on up back up here, it also was worked out that they when they're in here, they can go into either robot 4 or 5 and be milked and come straight back out here again.
And then you have your treatment area here.
Treatment area up here. Then with a cow tipper crush, when we were drying off the cows, there we draft them back here. There was also another area we used the far side here for drafting robots 1 and 2, but it's not bedded, it's just 19 cubicles.
Yeah.
We dry the cows off in the tipper crush. They're tipped up on their side, paired, their feet paired, and treatment done at that point till the dry cows.
Yeah, so this is a handy,
handy
thing to have on the farm.
Oh, it is. We do, well, all lame cows done through that, and all your dry cows routinely feet paired through it, and
Do you do your own feed,
Yeah,
essentially?
do all
And
that.
I think Philip was saying that cows don't get been lame any length of time
No,
here.
if they're lame that morning, I do it. Whether it's Christmas Day or whatever, they're done.
You're doing them on the day, essentially, as soon as you see them.
As soon as I see them lame,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's excellent. I think there's good research to show that you'll be 80% successful if you intervene early versus 20%.
No,
if
it's a
you
big
don't.
thing getting them hit early. So
Yeah,
it is. So.
good stuff.
So
I suppose it's convenient to do it too.
Oh,
you
it is.
can
When
separate
you've
them
set
out.
up there, they're separated out and everything's good to go. I don't know. It's just, in fairness, it was a renovation. All this, it was added to old existing buildings, and it was just fitted in where our first parlour actually was here years ago, before the other place. So we crush set up that we can treat in the crush and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
and then there's another separation area for robots 1 and 2.
And then they just fed up at the top end as well.
Well, what happens is we just separate in the mornings when we need the cows, and then the rest of the day, at the minute we need cubicles, so the rest of the day, rather than if it's sitting empty, it's opened up.
They can,
It's opened up.
Okay.
My name's Philip Abernathy. One of the senior vets with Parkland's Veterinary Group in Cookstown. I've been working with the McAleeces here, Paul and Bertie, this last 13 or 14 years now, and have seen their herd progressing from just around the 200 cows, mainly summer grazing herd, to more intense system with house cows, and in the last couple of years moving to a robot setup from their original parlour unit, and have helped guide them where I can through that transition.
Okay. And what sort of herd plan or routine veterinary treatments have you got in here with the herd?
Okay, well, in terms of routine work, I do the scanning here for the farm in terms of fertility work, and that generally entails pulling out any problem cows, problem breeders in terms of repeat breeders or dirty cows. Also do a number of fresh cow checks as well, and obviously then the pregnancy diagnosis. We have found since the transition to the Lely system a big advantage with the collars and the heat detection from Paul's previous setup. Certainly the number of cows that are pulled out now for scanning, we have a much smaller non-pregnant rate, so in terms of in-calf rates are much higher. I would put that down to heat detection being superior on the new system. I would say of the PD checks we'd be doing, 9 cows out of 10 would be pregnant, Those that aren't would be either cystic or dirty or some other underlying reason why they're not in calf. Certainly heifer scanning is generally always very impressive in terms of the heat detection, and Paul would say himself that he's relying solely on the heat detection collars for timing of AI. So it's certainly opened my eyes as to what's possible with a good functional collar system.
Because I think, having looked at his figures earlier, I think he's got a predicted calving interval on the robot of in around, it seems to be in around that 380, 390, which is better even than it was this time last year, and I suppose maybe that was the system embedding in place. And
and I think as well, what would have been going on during the transition phase, Paul would have been coming from a fairly tight blocked autumn calving herd. He'd been moving from August, calving from third week in August through to February, end of February, early March, with probably 95% of the herd calved. When the robot transition came in, he was looking to more all year round calving, and probably there were cows that were held back during that period and extended the calving interval in the first 12 to 18 months. So now we're probably seeing a true calving interval coming through now that he's been on the system that while longer. So certainly that would have been my reading, because the calving interval actually went up slightly initially, but I think it was artificial because of the move from seasonal calving to more of an all year round calving. But we are seeing benefits, not just in terms of the tighter calving index, but also the all year round calving has improved the facility in terms of calf health. Paul has always been very keen on hygiene, and dry cows and calving pens always been very well kept. But during the peak period of calving in the past, he would have had issue in the calf houses with potentially towards the end of the calving season with some scar and pneumonia issues. And in terms of changing the yard and changing the setup here, configuration of what each building was doing, one of the big things that we looked at was ventilation. Something Paul was actually reluctant to do much. Really, he's a pig farmer as well, so he wanted to try and keep heat in the house as well as ventilate. But in reality, adult cows can handle a lot of air moving. So we went in and took off all the ridges and let a huge capacity to get air out of the house, and then of course that allows fresh air to come in. And I think that was a crucial part of allowing us to transition to the all year round housing. Prior to that, he would have had a batch of cows, high yielders, in during the summer months, and it was difficult to keep controlling mastitis during that time because there was a lot of humidity in the air. We would have had issues with strep ubris and other bacteria that were circulating. Environmental control of the cubicles was tougher, but now there's fresher air coming in. Much of that has been eliminated, and I guess as well the cows moving onto the robot has allowed them to milk themselves more often. Those fresher calf cows certainly aren't carrying the same weight of milk in their udders. They can go visit the robot, and certainly not as much leaking of milk on the cubicles as there maybe used to be in the past, which was high risk for mastitis.
What about drying off procedure here? What's the typical the sealants or the?
Everything's getting a sealant, yeah. In terms of drying off, everything gets a sealant. We haven't moved to full selective dry cow therapy yet. Still, a number of cows will get both antibiotic tube and sealer. It's as much in terms of Paul's confidence. He's had issues in the past with sealing only, and we're trying to something we're working at to build confidence. But it's not. We haven't made the full transition to selective dry cow therapy yet. But it's certainly on the cards. As is maybe fine tuning the heifer rearing houses and see if we can get a bit more performance there as well. I think we've got disease well under control, but it's can we get better performance from those young stock calves.
The aim and to get them in at 24 months and
calving in around 23, 24 months, 25 months. So certainly the batches that are coming through, I guess it's one thing that has changed slightly and maybe slightly more difficult to manage would be in calf heifers or bulling heifer groups, because instead of block serving a batch, Paul would have done 30, 40, 50 heifers at a time. He's now having to sort of stretch those out a little bit in terms of making sure the transition into when it comes to them calving down and joining the robot, that they're not coming in big blocks, maybe like they used to on the parlour system. There's 5 or 6 calving pens here. This system has worked really well. I think even when I first came to the farm 13, 14 years ago, this was their original calving block, and it works well. Individual pens, they're easy cleaned out, and it's something that he's very particular about cleaning out, power hosing, disinfection. Again, it comes from the intensive sector, from the pig side of the farm as well, to have that mindset to how important cleansing, disinfection, biosecurity is, in terms of buying in stock. Everything's home reared now, and that's been a key part, I think, as well, is keeping disease out, is having a closed herd. It's worked really, really well over the last number of years, and we've had challenges, don't get me wrong, in terms of production disease and background bacterial viral diseases. But one thing I would say about Paul and Bertie, if there's an issue, they're on the phone. What's going wrong here? We need to get this sorted out. Very proactive and very receptive to taking on board advice and how to put things right.
And what about lameness? Do they do regular bathing here, or what's the...
Yeah, the bathing is done at the exit of the robots, and seems to have worked well. The trays, I would like them to be a little bit longer so that each cow gets an extra foot placement before she leaves the foot bath. But the fact that they're coming through it every milking, every day, means that they're getting more often through the dip, through the foot bath. And lameness is something they're pretty hot on here. They've their own turntable for doing foot trimming themselves, and a cow won't be lame long here before she's looked at. It's taken almost a mastitis viewpoint on lameness. You wouldn't leave a cow with mastitis 3 or 4 or 5 days or even 2 weeks before you would treat her. It's done on the day or as soon as possible after she's noticed, and the same in terms of the foot bathing. If you're doing that almost as if it's a post dipping that you would do after a cow's milk. It's that kind of type of mindset that you're constantly trying to get on top of it. You'll never ever win the battle outright. There'll always be issues and fresh cases of lameness, as there would be mastitis, but you're trying to reduce it down to the very minimum you possibly can.
Okay, good. Okay.
In terms of production, often in any dairy herd, the cows are on an edge, really, in terms of that performance, where if we push them another step further, they're at risk of acidosis or difficulty in rumination. But in terms of rumination, it feeds into the health reports as well, and if we're, it's been a big factor in able to predict a cow going wrong before she physically looks wrong, and in that I mean early prediction of a cow about to take mastitis. So if rumination's dropping, conductivity in the quarters up, and our activities dropping back, that you might get that warning 8, 10, 12 hours before she's actually got changes in the milk in her quarter. I think the guys here have found that very useful in terms of making sure they're getting prompt treatments if the cow needs treated, that they're getting in early with the treatment, and finding that sickness becomes less severe and less lost quarters. So it is proven its worth in terms of the health reports and that ability to act quickly.
Hi, I'm Colin Givans. I'm a herdsman here at Ultimo Farms. I've been here for 15 years, so I have. There's been a lot of changes, especially this past 2 years with the robots going in. Me in the morning to come in, change my filters, go to the computer, check whatever cows has to be gathered, go to the health reports, and then after that then I go and start and gather up my cows. And once the cows is gathered up, then at that time the boys are in with the feeder wagons and cows are up, stand feeding, and then I come in, brush the cubicles down, sanitise them, and then start treating cows after that again.
Good stuff. And how long would the routine and the robots take, like between sort of doing the filters and gathering up? I mean, how many cows typically is there to gather on a day-to-day basis?
It can range from 10 cows till 20 cows, depending if a pile of heifers calving down. You'd have a bit more gathering to do when the heifers start calving down for maybe a week or so, and then things settle down again. So they do.
You said you come in and do the filters. Has the time changed since you went to robots? Do you still come in as early, or is it a little bit later now? Or
I would come in, well, if I was in about 15 minutes later ahead of it.
Right.
I'm a sort of fella, I like to get started early in the morning.
Yeah.
That's when you get the most of your work done, in peace and quiet, and nobody annoying you and that.
Good stuff.
And then you hopefully get right up early in the evenings.
So how long, in comparison then, how long would you spend how long were you spent in the parlour versus
Parlour, we were spending 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening. So, and that was me in the parlour by myself. It was a 60-30 swing over, dairy master, good enough parlour. But now it was, you're glad to get out of it after 3 hours.
6 hours a day then, so
yeah.
You know, what sort of time is that cut down to now, or how long would it take you to do your robot routines and collect your cows?
The morning routine, I would say we haven't saved much time in the morning routine, the time you treat cows and all the rest. But the big change in the evening routine, so there is. And at slurry times, you know, I can do the whole thing myself, do calves, robots, check cattle out around all our farms. I can do all that myself, and that the alarm boys tear away the slurry.
Yeah, so you essentially can run the whole thing yourself, really, during the busy times.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
It's a busy enough day, mind you.
It is a busy day. It don't take too much to grow, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that.
And so how many cows is here in total, roughly?
In total, with roughly 300 milking all the time. So we have, and there's about 60 to 70 dry all the time.
So 360, 370 cows.
Yeah. And then we keep all beef cattle, all calves is kept as well.
Good.
So just grouped by numbers, just there's 120, there's 100, 100, 100, and I think it's 110 at the minute in the other group.
Yeah.
So there's sort of nearly all that the robots, they're just 3 times just starting to get tight. That's the milk they're putting out. We had a decent herd average, but we got a big lift as well. So we did. We're up near the 11,000 litres now. So we're from 9.7 I think it was beforehand.
Yeah.
We would have had a lot of trouble with digital dermatitis, even though, and now with the foot bath and all the time, that's become a thing of the past nearly. So it has. So
Have
a
you
big
used
improvement in
have
feed.
you used the scrapers in as well then?
We do,
Is it-
yes,
yeah.
They are a massive help as well. So they are.
Keeping the cows cleaner and the beds cleaner.
Definitely, definitely. A big change in the beds as regards when you're in the parlour, the milk, and the beds would have been serious in the mornings, just would have been white milk, whereas now the beds is dry.
how have you found training the cows up initially and also afterwards as cows and heifers calve in again? What way
was the startup?
Yeah.
Well, the startup was challenging, so it was that first month. We took it in shifts, so we did. And the time the first week or a week and a half was up, the cows were exhausted, we were exhausted. It was nice to get stepping back a wee bit after that week and letting the cows sort of come to themselves.
Do it themselves, yeah.
That you weren't taking the batches and taking gates in and out and all the rest. And once they started to settle down, things started to click in, and the cows started to calve down the next year. They just went on to the robot first time and away they went. You never had luck about them. So you hadn't unless.
What about heifers then?
Heifers haven't given us much trouble at all. With louder parlour feeders and dry cow end, I think that has helped a lot. They're used to getting meal when they go into the outer parlour feeders, so once they go into the robot and they hear the meal coming, the head's in, and you might get one you might have to stand with and just scratch your back or something like that to keep her occupied, and usually after the first time away they go. So the
majority of them have been fine then, yeah?
They have, yes. Yeah. So they have.
Good stuff.
And it's as I say, it's a nice work. Like, robots are only as much as what you take from them. Like in the morning, for example, parlour routine was you straight into parlour milking cows. Now you'll come out here in the morning, you're into the computer. You could sit half an hour. You could even sit, tell you the truth, an hour sometimes if you're sad enough to stay on them. But you could just spend so much time looking at details, figures, rest feed. The first year, for example, when we put the robots in, I got a knee replacement done, and I was out of action for about 4 weeks badly, that I wasn't able to do much, and we were only into the robots that year. And from that, I was able to, from the house, through my phone, I had been able to tell the boys to look about a cow, because I near swear she was lame. You just knew rest feed would be up, or activity would be down. Yeah. The collars and the rumination in collars is a must, in my opinion.
You've seen a big plus with getting that information for fertility and everything.
See, taking the rumination from collars and going then from your activity and going through then onto your conductivity, mastitis, all that there, and even watching the way the activity goes up and down on the graph, just how much that cow's moving in the day. I'm able to draft that cow for the evening time and look at her and know that cow's feet's going to be wrong. Yeah,
you nearly know now what it's telling you.
That's one of my big pushes for going down the robot route, was getting on top of feet. Yeah. I was been sort of running the pig unit in here. I wasn't doing all the milking all the time, didn't see the cows enough, and had no way of monitoring them. This way here, I can monitor everything from the house. In the morning, the boys might think I sleep in, but I'm sitting on the phone checking before I even go out. I might as well sit in the warm kitchen and sit out here checking. Labour, when it comes to the robots, definitely is labour saving. One big benefit. Well, you'll talk to Colin. Colin was a parlour man beforehand. He now would not go back to milking parlour. He loves the ease of the robots, going at your leisure. You're not under pressure. You aren't set to a routine that you have to pump 300 and something cows through a milking parlour in so many hours, if you know what I mean. Now it's an easier work, it's a nicer work, a different type of work. The way I would describe labour hours, from a man and all coming, and even me, my starting time isn't as early as what it used to be. And finishing time is better for the boys. I always like when they're in at the milking parlour end, they were working too long a day. Yeah. It was just too long. Now at least they're getting time, sensible times. And but if there's one, when it comes to the labour end of it, if there's anything, I would say, with me personally running 6 of them, I would say the fault would be when it comes to breakdowns or anything like that on call. It would fall onto me more so at nights if something goes wrong, or if for example, the boys used to be on 6 o'clock. If they're not on as early now, you have that extra hour of cows calving to monitor. If they're going home an extra hour or a couple of hours earlier, you have that to monitor then at night times and calves to feed. So there's more falls on me that way, but that's my own fault. I suppose I could organise it differently to a certain extent, that I could get the boys in to do some of that. But as such, yet I haven't done that.
So you're letting them having the labour saving?
Well, I'm having labour saving too, in fairness to it. Like, used to be in the milking parlour, and you had the work of it, you had the treatment to the cows. This end here, like, I can leave a lot of it till Colin to do. Then we have a pig farm down the road, and have that to run and stuff. So it allows me a bit more free time to run between things.
David Mawhinney from Key Nutrition, nutritionist with Key Nutrition, Cookstown. I'm involved here as nutritionist with Bertie and Paul McAleece for quite a number of years. They've moved here recently to install 6 Lely robots from sort of traditional parlour system previously, where they had a high group and a low group of cows. Moved over to, say, six robot system. I think there was a big mentality change for Bertie and Paul when they moved over, because traditionally they had a high yielding and a low yielding group of cows on the farm. The high yielders would have been fed for in the region of maintenance plus 35 litres through the total mixed ration, which would have been forages plus in excess of 10 kilograms of concentrates. Cows done fairly well in that system, but when they moved obviously to the Lely system, there's a change for the cows and a change for Paul as well, actually, to try and get the feeding level down in the total mixed ration and encourage cows through the robot and the Cosmix feeders. I think the Cosmix feeders are a key feature of the success of the robot system here on this farm, because, as I say, there's 6 robots, and on average the cows are yielding fairly high. It's a high producing herd, but the key thing in any robot system is not necessarily the average is nice to talk about and useful, but it's the range of yields within the herd that's important. Paul has a number of cows here that are yielding over 60 kilograms of milk per day, and it's from that right down to some cows that are yielding under 20 litres of milk per day. So we're feeding through the total mixed ration for about maintenance plus 15 litres, and then cows are fed in the robot up to a maximum level, and then the Cosmix feeder takes over after that. And as I say, the key thing is to keep feed efficiency within the herd, that we're not overfeeding that lower yielding animal, but we are satisfying the needs and requirements of the higher yielding animal.
Do you know what sort of kilos is fed at the feed fence now then, in terms of meal?
So the diet of the feed fence is there's 3 kilograms of blend and high quality first cut silage. Forage quality in this farm has always been, well, nobody sets out to make poor quality silage, but these guys have their own machinery, do a lot of their own field work, and the quality of the silage is normally at the upper end. I mean, it's a 12 ME silage, 30% dry matter, 12 ME silage we're working with here. Part of the challenge probably with a herd like this is actually keeping fibre going into cows to keep rumen health where it should be. Paul and Bertie have grew alternative forages in the past, whole crop cereals and maize silage, but for this year neither of those are available, but Paul has a quantity of whole crop wheat in the ground for feeding next year. So the total mixed ration here is pretty simple and straightforward. I say this year it's high quality first cut silage, cut on, Paul can give you the exact date, in early May. It's analysing fairly consistently around that 12 ME, 28 to 30 dry matter, 12 ME. So it has the potential to drive milk very much, the one and milk solids, milk protein. But the one issue is actually keeping enough fibre into cows to keep rumen health well enough that cows haven't any subclinical acidosis and are able to visit the robot well. So the only other fibre source we have at our disposal on the farm this winter is straw. So we're feeding about 0.5 kilograms of chopped straw and along with that.
And what sort of chop length there? Is sort of a little longer than normal, is it, for the silage?
Well, Paul has his own self-propelled harvester. I mean, you can see what it is there. It's you know, there's always getting a balance in chop length. The shorter it is, the easier it is to consolidate in the pit and get a good fermentation. But you're looking at a wee bit longer, you know, 2 inches plus, to try to keep a bit of effective fibre in the rumen.
Yeah.
We have started pre-chopping straw this winter as well, just to try to keep intakes. So Paul puts it through the McHale chopper. He has a pile of it lying out here, and then it goes into the Keenan wagon, just to try and keep it at that fairly consistent length. And to be honest, it has done what we've wanted it to do really this year.
Very good.
To feed the yield system, obviously, the cows are fed up to a maximum of 8 kilograms of nuts in the robot, and then the Cosmix feeder then takes over after that for the higher yielding portion of the herd. Okay. Obviously, fibre in the total mixed ration here is crucial, and you know, with a 12 ME silage, very leafy, that's always a challenge here.
Putting a little bit of straw in with that.
So we're feeding a bit of straw there, but hopefully the whole crop will tick that box next year. Obviously, we do what we can to a certain extent through the concentrate feeds. The nut would be formulated with palatability in mind, as well as obviously energy and fibre and all those things to keep cows healthy. But there are products in there to promote rumen health, and there are products in there like a product we have called Entice, which is an essential oil product with a very palatable nature to try and encourage cows actually to come and visit the robot. If you can keep cows up and visiting the robot and eliminate any obstructions for the cow, either from a cow health point of view or any physical obstructions for the cow going to visit the robot, that's when you'll get milk, and that's when they'll perform best.
And in terms of actual feed rate then, do you know what the rate is per litre? What was it? What is it now? Do you know, is there much of a difference since it started?
So there always has been an eye to feed efficiency on this farm. At the minute here, we're just working out with Paul there. We are just under 0.35, between 0.34 and 0.35 kilograms per litre. That's counting the blend, obviously, in the total mixed ration, and the nuts that are being fed via the robot and the outer parlour feeder. So we're pretty happy with that. And I mean, we have had a milestone here just in recent weeks with the robots, you know, where the 6 robots are fairly consistently producing over 12,000 odd litres of milk.
2,000 litres per robot per day. Then
just that 2,000 plus litres.
That's the aim then going forward, is it?
I think that's the aim. Obviously, there's a bit of longer term work to be done with Paul to try to utilise capacity of the robots best, with spreading his calving pattern a bit more. Traditionally here there would have been a lot of cows calved from August to Christmas. There still is, but I say to utilise capacity of the robots a bit better. Try and spread that.
That is one big benefit I see of the Lely robots, or any robot system, I suppose, is and the Cosmic feeders, is getting feed efficiency right. Before, when we were in the milking parlour, we had a high yielding group and a low yielding group, and basically you were feeding too many cows. Cows weren't getting exactly what they needed, no matter with the feeding in the milking parlour, it still wasn't right. And definitely I see with extra milk we're getting out of the robots now, we're feeding no more meal, if not slightly less, for that extra yield that we're getting.
What sort of litres extra are you getting?
Well, we used to be of an average around that 9.6, 9.7 of a lactation average. Now we're up to, I would say we'll be pushing over 11 now, so it will be. I do think that'll push up. The nutrition's changed this last year, and we've got a big lift with the new nutrition, and I think it'll be well up once we take the average over the next year. I think it'll be pushing around the 11.5. That's my opinion.
Because there is 6 robots going here and the number of cows been managed, it is left that your management of the cows, that's what you spend more time doing.
That's what that's why I went into them, and I'm definitely getting that from them, is being able to monitor the whole thing so much better than the milking parlour. Milking parlour, yes, showed me up yields, showed me if a cow was down, but it's more so what I can manage and see out there. And also, I suppose you are getting extra milk. You're getting the 3 times a day milking. Our cows always needed that 3 times a day milking. You're getting that, and our problem would have been was getting people in at nights, and like as such, you'd have been out more nights to do with that, with people not turning up, if you know what I mean, if you'd have been down that road. But
well, one thing I have heard men saying, Paul, maybe you could answer this, is that
doubtful.
We'll ask you anyhow.
All right, yeah.
With robots compared to parlours, men will say, with a robot you don't see your cows all the time. Whereas in the parlour you see them every time they come through it.
Yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent. You see the cows walking through the parlour, but out here you're in with the cows far more. You seen the cows in the parlour, they were walking by you, that's when you seen them, morning and night, twice. Out here you're walking through them to find them for AI, and you're walking through them to collect cows. Not that there is a big pile of collecting, but when you've fresh calved heifers and stuff going in, you always have some to collect. Like. You see them in a different light.
Yeah.